The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Nadine Younes, Pre-Award Administration Manager at Qatar National Research Fund. I would like to welcome you all here today in this virtual information session about the cluster track for the National Priorities Research Program. Thank you for attending, and I hope that you are all safe. I also would like to welcome with me my colleagues. I'll start with Dr. Hisham, the Technical Director, and the Senior Program Managers of the pillars. We have Dr. Omar Boukhres for the Energy and Environment pillar, Dr. Mohammad Jarrar for the Biomedical and Health pillar, Dr. Munir Tag for Senior Program Manager for the ICT pillar, and Dr. Hatem Mhanni, the Senior Program Manager for the Social Sciences, Arts and the Humanity. We have also with us Dr. Nafisa Shakron, the IP and Innovation Manager at QNRF. The agenda of today will be, I will start by giving an overview and overview about the submission process for the cluster program. Then the thematic areas will be explained in detail by the senior program managers. After that, Dr. Shakron will give a brief presentation about the research proposal IP section, the intellectual property section, and at the end we will have a Q&A session. By this, I will start by giving the object. If at any time you don't hear me, just please send any message and alert us. The objective of NPRP cluster is to address pressing strategic challenges for Qatar and produce tangible societal and economic impact. Also to support multi-institutional and inter or multidisciplinary research to solve significant and complex problems in a holistic way. So a cluster must adopt a holistic and multi-phased approach and should be multidisciplinary, multi-institutional, and multi-sectoral. The cluster must involve the relevant stakeholders and users and include a broad scope of participants, institutions, sectors, and expertise. And also should have a significant, well-defined, achievable, and measurable outcome. In addition, that the cluster must comprise several sub-projects, and each sub-project must tackle one or more aspect of the research problem as identified in the request for proposal, and they should work together in a complementary and seamless manner. The funding parameters of the NPRP cluster, or the National Priorities Research Program, the cluster track, is that each proposal should address the cluster thematic area and the defined problems as per the RFP. We have also the budget or the grant is up to $5 million for up to 5 years. And each sub-project should not exceed $1 million. This is the limitation on the budget. And as I mentioned, the cluster must have multiple sub-projects. Each sub-project will be led by a lead principal investigator. And one of these lead principal investigators will be the project director who submit the whole cluster and the application. So this is an example of a cluster. We have the project director, who's also a lead principal investigator. We have other sub-projects with the lead PIs and or a lead principal investigator, and also other principal investigators and other research team members. Like postdocs, research associate, research assistant, all these can be included in the sub-projects and the whole cluster. Regarding the thematic areas defined in this cycle, we have the National Emergency Preparedness Response and Resilience, NEPRR. We have also towards the clinical implementation of precision medicine. If you are aware of the previous cycle, this is the repeated theme from the previous one. We have also artificial intelligence and applications. And at the end, we have next Qatari society. As I mentioned before, these all will be, the senior program managers will talk in details about these themes later on. Regarding the eligibility of the project director must be affiliated to an approved institution inside Qatar. We have a list of approved institutions with the QNRF that the project director must be affiliated to it. I will mute everybody. Okay. And also project director must hold a PhD or any equivalent terminal degree. We have an approved list of terminal degrees available on QNRF website that you can refer to it, and also must have at least 5 peer-reviewed publications. The project director from a research and user entity like public, government, or private sectors without terminal degree can still be project director. However, with conditions that of having track records in managing technology development projects and or research projects, and a minimum of 5 peer-reviewed publication or authored patents or application. However, this is not by default. This this is subject for QNRF approval, where the project director must submit through the system a request to QNRF must be approved by QNRF, so the project director to be able to proceed with the application. We have also here the eligibility of the lead principal investigator. It's similar to the project director in terms of the PhD or the terminal degree, also the 5 peer-reviewed publication. Also, if he's from research and user entity, can still be lead principal investigator, but with approval of QNRF, of course. The only difference is that the lead PI must be affiliated to an institution, but this institution can be from inside or outside Qatar. So the project director must be from approved in submitting institution, but the lead PI can be from any collaborative institution which is inside or outside Qatar. Also, the principal investigators can be from the institutions inside and outside Qatar. Regarding a number of roles, if you are aware about our standard, the NPRP standard program, we have a limitation on number of roles, and these number of roles are not related to the clusters. It's only counted through the standard program, so they are not related to the cluster program. The only limitation here that we have that the project director can submit only one application and can have only one active. Is for the project directors who got awarded the previous cycles cannot submit now. Also, we don't have limits on the number of roles of the lead principal investigator and principal investigator in the cluster itself. However, this should not exceed the allowed effort by their institution. So they have to be this within their allowed effort by the institution when they apply to QNRF. Regarding type of applications, we have the usual one is the new. It's where the application is submitted for the first time for the program. And this cycle, we introduced a new thing, the resubmission. However, this resubmission has some condition. It's not by default for not awarded. The first condition should be, of course, for not awarded only in the previous cycle, which is the NPRP 12 cluster. The NPRP 12 cycle also should have been submitted before under the theme towards clinical implementation of precision medicine, because as I mentioned, this is the only theme that's repeated from past cycle. So that's why we accept only resubmission in this theme. Also, another condition very important that for the not awarded proposal, they should have received panel summary from the programmatic review of the previous cycle, and they should have a recommendation from the panel to resubmit or not. So if they don't have this, they will not be eligible to resubmit. So only recommended the proposal recommended by the panels to be resubmitted can be resubmitted this cycle. Regarding the submission or the pre-award process, so the submission starts by initial research proposal submission in IRP, what we call it IRP, where the should be according to the template available on QNRF website. Also, the project director must work with the lead PIs, fill in the template, and submit it through our system. Once we receive the IRPs or the initial research proposal, we will do we have a gating process where a panel of experts will meet, and we will invite the project directors and the lead PIs to come and present in front of the panel. And the panel will decide if these IRPs will go to the second stage of submitting a full proposal or not. So if for the proposal that they were recommended by the panel to go to the second stage of full proposal, we will inform the project director accordingly. We'll open the channel for them to submit the proposal, and we'll give them a timeline for that. So once we receive the proposal, the full proposal, it goes through our usual process, the screening process at QNRF, evaluation, then funding recommendation, and at the end we will have the award announcement. So if you are aware of our usual NPRP standard process, these steps follows the same process. It's very important to mention here that every step of submission by the applicant must be vetted by the research office of the submitting institution, which is the institution of the project director. So the IRP must be vetted to be considered by QNRF, as well as the full proposal also must be vetted by the research office. Otherwise, it looks like we didn't receive it from QNRF. So it should be considered only if it's vetted by the research office. Regarding the budget component, we have the usual budget. We have the personnel, equipment, material, and consumables, which include also services. We have a travel with a limitation of up to 10% of the annual direct budget, miscellaneous up to 5 million of the annual direct budget, and the indirect cost up to 20% of the annual direct budget. As I mentioned, we accept a collaboration from outside Qatar. However, we have some limitation on that maximum 20% of the total grant and maximum 35% of the efforts can be spent outside Qatar. In other words, 80% of the grant and 65% of the effort must be inside Qatar. We have here also some for regarding private institutions as submitting or collaborating institutions are not eligible for personnel and indirect costs. In NPRP cluster, we encourage the co-funding from research and users, of course. These are the private, public, or other institutions like NGOs or who are or any other non-academic or non-research institutions. These are eligible to co-fund. We have two types of co-funding: the cash or the in-kind. In-kind in terms of personnel, equipment, travel, miscellaneous. Also, however, in case of co-funding, we will be requiring a commitment letter from the co-funder signed and stamped from the co-funder, and we have a template for that. However, these commitment letters will be required in the full proposal stage, not now in the initial research proposal. As I mentioned, we have in the IRP, we have a gating process, which we call the IRP, the initial research proposal review process, where we gate the IRPs to ensure alignment to the cluster theme, assess the overall cluster design, structure, management, coordination, and synergy, assess the capabilities of the project director and the research team, highlight any major weakness that need to be addressed in the full proposal, and provide strategic feedback and conditions for the team to incorporate in the full proposal. Regarding the evaluation of the full proposal, it goes through two-tier review process. For the full proposal, we have the first tier, which is the peer review or the scientific merit review, where we send each proposal to 5 international experts in the field of the proposal. And the evaluation criteria are intellectual merit, expected impact, cluster justification, management and work plan, qualifications of the team, budget, and research compliance. Then once we receive the peer review, the proposals from the scientific merit review, I have here, okay. We will do a shortlist. Then the shortlisted proposal will go to the programmatic review, which also include a panel meeting. The programmatic review criteria are to the strengths of alignment with the thematic areas and the cluster objectives, the quality of the collaboration and the co-funding commitment, the strategic standing of the proposal and the potential impact, the past performance of the team, the composition of the local research team, and the adequacy of the budget. All of these are listed in the request for proposal, also you can refer to. Regarding the timeline, the channel has opened on 28 June for the submission of IRPs and for RO vetting, and it will close on 6 October 2020. And hopefully we expect to announce the outcome of the gating process of the IRPs by November 2020. The submission of all of the IRP and the full proposal must be done through the submission system QGrants on oss.qgrants.org. And all the RFP and all the procedures, the templates are available on in the NPRP Download Center. Just make sure that you are using the referring to NPRP cluster. This is the RFP for the cluster and the template. This is the template for the initial research proposal. Also, these documents are related to the cluster as well. In case you need any assistance for submission, during submission of IRP or full proposal, we have the grant application guide. It shows step-by-step instruction on online submission. And in case you still have any question, you can always send it to us through the support system at support.qnrf.org, which is available at the bottom page of QNRF website. By this, I end my presentation and I give the floor to Dr. Omar Boukhres, Senior Program Manager for Energy and Environment.
Thank you, Nadine. I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, investigators, research office representatives, colleagues of QNRF, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good morning, everybody. I hope you are doing great and staying fine and safe. So I will take you the next 5 minutes through the topic of this call, National Emergency Preparedness, Response and Resilience, although it has been categorized under the energy and environment pillar, but you would logically understand that it spans all different fields of science. So please do not think of it as a pillar, related, but whenever and wherever your topic is or your background is, if you think you can submit to this proposal, please do so. Allow me, if we go to the next slide, Nadine, please. Allow me for the slide just to take you over the significance of this topic and the reason as to why QNRF opted to go for it. So ideologically, this comes as a response of QNRF to the reality on the ground. The reality that although it currently dictates attention to the COVID-19 situation, we wanted, however, to look at it from a broader perspective. The perspective that of preparedness and responsiveness to disasters or emergencies. So you may naturally think that the COVID-19 situation kicked off the idea of this call, and you would be right in the respect that it had speeded up the launch of this call. However, in reality, QNRF had given attention to such topic with other international funders back in time, and we launched a call with the Belmont Forum, as you would remember. We still believe that this is a very important topic to us here in Qatar, and this needs the attention of many parties, stakeholders, and hence it's best suited to the cluster program. So we use the term emergency and disaster interchangeably in this call, and we define them being the extreme, either natural events or man-made events that negatively impact the life and well-being of population inside the state of Qatar and in the region. All of you know, records show that such events are increasing in frequency, in strength, and have been happening at local, regional, and international scale. So, no matter where you are at, disaster may happen in different forms and different impacts. Media, specifically the international media, has been overwhelmingly forthcoming with a warning sort of description of the situation. And you would always hear statements such as, the disaster will happen. It's not a matter if it will happen, but it's a matter of when it will happen. Well, as much as this sounds a bit kind of scary and off the chart, well, there is a lot of truth to it if you look at the reality of the ground. Here you go. We have been through the bird flu, the swine flu, Ebola, heat waves, droughts, extreme climatological events, floods, disruption of infrastructure, oil leaks, epidemics, pandemics, and on and on and on. And the list, it's too long. And no one can claim that a given disaster is relative to a given region only or a given condition only. No one can claim this anymore. It is happening all over the places, and the COVID-19 situation is a very example. So all around the world, emergency systems are struggling to cope, so much so that draconian measures are put in place to limit the spread of the disease and relieve the pressure on the health and supply chain systems. The disastrous consequences of the disaster are enormous, as you all know: loss of life, trauma, recession, disruption to public and private lives, shutdown of travel, and almost shutdown of economies. So clearly you understand why we opted for this call, and we need to be prepared for such severe incidences, and dedicated systems and resources must be set up and ready to activation when needed. There is a clear case, therefore, for RDI, research, development, and innovation, to step in and provide necessary solutions and systems to prepare for recover from such events. We believe we have built throughout the previous years, we have built inside Qatar here a legacy that is capable to tackle such topics. We have the necessary expertise, human and infrastructure resources to provide these solutions, and hence this call. Nadine, if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what are the objectives then of the call? So QNRF, in recognition of what I just described, now aims to enable research that helps improving the nation's capability to A, prepare for, B, respond to, and C, recover from emergencies or disasters. We want to be basically proactive in terms of system preparedness before the disaster. And we want to have governance system to deal with the disaster during its happening, and we want to build reaction capacity and capabilities in terms of systems recovery after the disaster. It's important to look at the entire spectrum of events and come up with a system approach to develop, test, and implement measures to mitigate the impact of emergencies, increase recovery, and hence build up the societal resilience. So we thought that such objectives apply for this call. One is identification of the emergency areas and associated risks. 2, strengthening the emergency governance. 3, enhancing emergency preparedness for effective response. And 4, recovery and rehabilitation after the disaster. If we click next, Nadine. So key topic questions such as these questions, you may think of others as well that fall within the same category, would be what types of pre-emergency planning are strategic to resilient development in terms of bouncing forward rather than bouncing back from the actual emergencies, and what emergency governance modalities are effective in enabling collective engagement of all stakeholders. So basically what the message here, what I want to tell you is, I want you really to think out of the box and really in a broader holistic way. The ultimate benefit of this call is to provide solutions to enhance national readiness for emergencies, foster community preparedness and engagement, understand the vulnerability of population, and therefore build the resiliency. One last point to say prior to handing over to my colleague, it is extremely important that your research involves co-engagement and collective effort of relevant stakeholders to ameliorate this disaster risk readiness and resilience. Academia on its own, I don't think it will be able to do it on its own. And public sector on its own, no. We need to put hand in hand because this is a big topic, as you would understand. And that also will show the big spectrum and the holistic approach to tackle such a topic. I wish you a successful submission, and I will hand over to my colleague, Dr. Mohammad Shah, the Senior Manager for Medical and Health and Biomedical Research. Dr. Mohammad. Dr. Mohammad, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Omar. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, everybody. I just want to mention that this theme of this cluster for precision medicine is the same last previous cycle. For the importance of the topic per se, we're trying to move from a path toward precision medicine, which we have already launched 4 cycles, toward the clinical implementation of precision medicine, which is the title for this cluster. A little introduction again, as most of you know, that precision medicine aims to tailor disease prevention and treatment to each patient or group of patients on the basis of individual variability, environmental factors, and lifestyle, and so on. There have been fundamental achievements in the past few years that they come together to offer now the convincing or compelling opportunity to move toward this innovative approach. It is a hot topic of research worldwide, actually, but for Qatar per se, we have the availability of the Qatar Genome Project, and Qatar Biobank already produce large amounts of biological samples and data for normal and diseased individual. With genetic variations data, combining that by environmental interaction, influences of lifestyle, and cutting-edge tools and technology already established in Qatar for the big data analysis had led to this type of research and medical practices called personalized precision medicine or precision medicine. There is also excellent progress in the research area of the past 4 cycles, as I mentioned, the 4 PPMs we already launched. We have a good pool of talented and experienced researchers and clinicians in Qatar. And there's with the good experiences in and skills in disease modeling, for example, in silico, in vitro, and in vivo. These are the infrastructure and underlying tools for precision medicine per se. There is acquisition of a wide range of biomedical information combined with the development of computational tool sets that for flexible integrative analysis of multi-assay diseases. So or data sets. So this is already in place. We have much better understanding of many diseases mechanisms that we've been investigating for the past 10 years or so, and the advancements in multi-omic research and experiences of our team of researchers. All of these really pave the way for moving toward precision medicine. So to build on this success per se, it's now time to explore ways of clinically implementing of precision medicine for the benefit of patients and the health system at large in Qatar, where a targeted personalized medicine would reduce healthcare costs by providing more efficient and cost-effective services. I just want to reiterate 2 points. I'll emphasize 2 main points. With a holistic and multifaceted approach, the cluster proposal should be of multidisciplinary, multi-institutional, and multi-sectorial, with joint activities in complementary way that involve the relevant stakeholder and end users. With a broad scope of participants, institutions, sectors, expertise in Qatar and outside Qatar to tackle the proposed themes and fulfill the objectives of this program. The other important point is looking for a high quality, outstanding projects that have a well-defined, achievable, applicable, implementable, and measurable aims and objectives that that will lead eventually to practical, tangible, and significant translational impacts on health in Qatar, and advancement of the clinical and medical practices in Qatar per se. So the next slide will show the general mission of this research program. Toward the clinical implementation of precision medicine is another way we say to shift from research toward medical practice and clinical care, tailoring that research toward clinical practice and medical care with a tangible practical solution. The general mission is to establish a hub to translate the outcome of PPM research projects through the setting necessary programs, protocol, policies, procedures, and facilitate the generation of and utilization of clinical data that would aid in diagnosis and therapy of patients in a customized approach. And there is an initiative probably start materializing, which is to establish a dedicated precision medicine center to link patients with relevant research and clinical entities for precision medicine research, diagnosis, and treatment. Of course, all of this will utilize and at the same time will strengthen and support the QPP and QGP. The research focus in general should be, as I mentioned, but in more a clear way, to developing systems and solutions that can be clinically implemented to patients with the fewer side effects and higher efficacies to improve the lives of patients. And of course, identifying and understanding the early molecular changes in cells and organs that precede the development of clinical symptoms of disease. Next slide, Nadine, will show the details, or in some way what we call them, the themes of the research. The next slide, please. Yeah, this slide. Design and development of targeted preventive treatments to correct the health course and improve diagnosis and treatment of patient in customized and patient-focused approach. Establish a cross-border collaboration between research institutions, health services, and provide private sectors to utilize the method, technologies, and results from precision medicine, again, for diagnosis, drug selection, treatments of patients, and to utilize this large of information of data from patients that have been collected through QGP, QPP, and the research outcomes of the PPM and other NPRPs that researchers have been involved for quite a good time, and identifying changes in these omics and further enhancing diagnosis and cohorts analysis and treatments. The fourth, these are like general overall aims that desirable to be included in any research projects or to be successful. The overall aim, as we said, to lay the foundation for a hub in precision medicine, translational research per se, and will be utilized in a systematic way for clinical decision making, and it can be applied directly to patients to improve the health and medical sector. Now, this is an old saying, from the test tube to the patients. Now we're moving much closer to patients. I think that's all. There are so many details. You can relate to the RFP in more details about these, but in general, the project should be comprehensive in a way, can tackle and include overall these points in the research proposal. By this, I think I finished. Thank you, and I give the floor for my colleague, Dr. Munir Tag, which is the Senior Program Manager for ICT. Thank you, Dr. Munir.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Munir Tag, the Program Manager for Information Communication Technologies, ICT at QNRF. I would like to welcome you to this presentation. I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence and its applications. So what's artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a process of learning and taking efficient and effective decisions. Artificial intelligence, actually, we have all intelligence. What is intelligence? Intelligence actually is observing, collecting data, storing data, correlating data, and take decisions. This we do as humans. Animals do that as well. And here we are seeking the help of the machine to help us in this process. Machines actually have high computing power, a lot of data that they can analyze, correlate, and help in taking effective decisions. This is important, actually, trend in different sectors, and I will come to that later. Nadine, next slide. So the aim actually of this cluster is to stimulate research development and innovation in AI that create knowledge and find solutions to economic and societal challenges in Qatar. Artificial intelligence is not new. I mean, some of you think that, oh, something's new, artificial intelligence. No, artificial intelligence, like cybersecurity as well. These are not new domains. They're all, I mean, they were actually there started in the 40s and 50s. So from the 40s to the 1940s to 1960s, there was the birth of AI and the use of automation and communicating machines at that time. And that also grown to robotics and expert system in the 80s and 90s. But since 2010, actually, we see really an emergence or resurgence of AI due to huge amount of data, massive data that we are having today, and new computing power. AI processing the data, analyzing the data, learning, taking decision requires huge computing power. And this we have today and cheap. So this is why it's becoming very popular. You can take really important decision using this technology. This digital technology, which is a digital technology. In Qatar realized the importance of AI. And there is a strategy that was released in 2019, named National Artificial Intelligence Strategy for Qatar. The strategy addresses different areas. First of all, capacity building. Of course, we need to build capacity in AI. Data sharing, you need to have data. Otherwise, if there is no data, you cannot take decision. AI will not work. You need data and machine learning. Job creation, AI will help really. We need to create jobs and in this area and expand in different sectors. Application of AI. AI applies to multiple domains. Dr. Omar, my colleague, mentioned about disaster. We can predict things before they happen in the disaster. In health, Dr. Jarrar mentioned about precision medicine. AI can be used really to help in discoveries of medicine and also in social sciences, and I will come to that later. So in different sectors, we can apply AI. Also, of course, AI raises a number of ethical and challenges which we need to address, especially interacting with the machine, the involvement of machine in our daily life, and correct policies and suitable policies need to be defined. These are part of the strategy. So our teams that were selected in this topic and cluster are, next slide, Nabil. So first of all, AI systems. So we need really to have efficient system, trusted and secure infrastructure and platform to interact with data to generate bespoke analytics and decisions for the different sectors and providing AI as a service. So AI actually can be provided as a generic platform, and this platform can be used to build specific applications that or services that can be applied to different sectors. So here we are talking about the platform and the infrastructure that is needed to support for AI.
Sorry to interrupt. Please, can you come close to the mic? We hear some echo in your background.
Yes.
Yes, this is better.
So AI systems, I mentioned that it is infrastructure and platforms that support the applications and the services you are going to provide. So it's the underlying system. The application now, we are looking to have projects that apply AI in healthcare. AI is very important actually now to detect, predict, control epidemiology of infectious diseases, accelerate development of personalized medicine for cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and also can be applied really to study the antibiotic resistance, medical imaging. It can predict and see cancer actually, which we cannot see with human eyes, and also neurological disorder and such type of diseases. So we are looking for proposals in such area. In such area that really help in predicting and proposing really the way forward. AI can be used for medical discovery and of course this for vaccines discovery, the upfront part, because we have huge amount of data that we need to digest, absorb, analyze, and correlate. And this requires really high computing power and machines. And this will be it really shorten the period of years or tens of years of research to very short period. And then, of course, this has to be tested and clinical trials and etc. AI under energy. including oil and gas. Here we are looking for AI applied to exploration, drilling and well construction, reservoir modeling, simulation and characterization, energy optimization, including electrical power energy, electrical power systems. So we are looking for energy optimization to reduce cost and boost operational safety and efficiency. So here really is to improve the performance, reduce the cost, and increase the efficiency of systems. Next slide, Nadine. Next slide.
Yes, I moved it.
Yes, thank you. National security is another topic where this cluster is interested in. AI for enhancing national security and safety, cyber security, autonomous vehicles, localization and tracking in crowd and detection of suspicious behavior, or related to national security and big events that Qatar is going to host, and different types of sports and conferences and in the airports. So such type of system actually is useful actually to predict suspicious behavior, give right decisions, and make the right alerts upfront. Business, economics and finance. AI for predicting and analyzing market and business behaviors and improve business resilience and operational performance. So if there is we have huge amount of data actually in business, economics and finance. This needs to be collected, correlated, so that we can anticipate market problems or a stock exchange problem. We can anticipate and take the right decision upfront and avoid the disasters. AI applied to education, including personalized education, and here we are looking for the application of AI to assist students in real time through adaptive virtual learning. So here AI to study, to analyze the performance of the students, look at their behavior, how they react, how they what are their results, and then propose bespoke really courses and training for students. Sports. AI advanced AI technologies to improve the performance of champions, augmented game experience, and connected fans, enhancing Qatar as an active nation. Here we are looking for AI to really to look at the performance of the team, look at the weakness, strength, and really based on different data and videos and films that can be collected, analyzed, and then the right decision can be made to help the champions, for instance, improve their performance before the game starts. Industry, AI applied to enhance production, predict faults, and optimize supply chain. Here also is an important area. Industry, if there is a fault, it can stop the whole machine and the whole system and the supply line. So AI can be used actually to analyze the data. Different data is coming from different sensors in the machine, in an industry, in a factory. Analyze the data and take decisions actually to prevent and give information and take decision before to prevent a fault before it happens. So it's really important. Also in supply chain, it's a global market. AI can be really useful to have the supply and demand met really on time, reduce cost, and avoid problems and shortage of supply. Thank you very much, and we'll be, I think, having a question answer session at the end. Now I would like to ask my colleague, Dr. Hakim Mani, to present his presentation on Qatari society. Next Qatari society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Munir. You are hearing me? It's okay?
Yes, Doctor, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Sabah al-Khair, and for all the attendees and my colleagues from QNRF. The topic for our pillar, social science, arts and humanity pillar, is next Qatari society. The next slide, please. Our starting observation or finding is that the world today is quite different from that of 20 or 30 years ago, and this is mainly due, from our point of view, to the widespread of some generic old and emergent ICTs at the individual level and also at the organizational level. These profound changes and transformations are not or have not only technological aspects or issues, but they are also mainly societal and economic. Thousands of research papers were published in the last years tackling these societal and economic issues, mainly in the Western countries. We know today that these transformations impacted positively and also negatively the family cohesion, marriage, divorce, parenting, etc. We also see the emergence of what is called the next generation literature, millennial generation, Generation X or Generation Y. This generation is born with electronic devices in their hand, and they seem to be quite different from their predecessors. And they are more sheltered, confident, team-oriented in their working. Many other changes were revealed by the scientific literature, mainly with regard to the religion, language, media, identity, and of course, education. In the same time, many economic transformations came to the light, and concepts like digital transformation, e-government, e-commerce, smart factories became subjects of a large and a huge number of research programs and studies. Generic technologies are also changing the fundamental laws of the labor market, and also ask our attention to prepare ourselves and the next generations to what could be next and future jobs. New economic and financial opportunities come to cross all this transformation, and fintech industry and cryptocurrencies are examples of these opportunities.
Sorry, Doctor, please, can you raise a little bit your voice and come close to the mic?
Okay, next slide, please. But what about Qatar? From the technological point of view, we know now that Qatar is one of the most connected countries in the world. The internet penetration is close to 100%. The social media penetration is also near 100%. The use of mobile connection is about 152%. This is to say that in Qatar, the population is using widely all the mature ICT, information and communication technologies. But in the same time, we don't know so much with regard to societal and economic transformation in Qatar. Next slide, please, Nadine. This is why QNRF is proposing the next Qatari society as a topic, as a new topic for the current cluster NPRP. In particular, the cluster should address the following overall objectives. The first one is the link between the use and the adoption of these technologies on social transformation in Qatar. The second is the impact of these technologies on education, religion, language, and in particular the use of Arabic, media, and also Qatari identity. We also propose a reflection on the following theme. What are the real characteristics of the new Qatari generation, the X generation in Qatar, and what are their aspirations? From the economic side, we see that, and we look for proposals linked to industrial policy. For example, what about opportunities and challenges for developing new industries like Industry 4.0, fintech industries, gaming industries? What could be the role of the crypto money to change the role of the central bank, the monetary policy? What about also the autonomy of the central bank in the presence of crypto money, etc.? These are some of the topics which we invite you to look to, but they are not the only one. The theme is Next Qatari Society, and we are open to look to all your proposal in this broad thematics. Dear colleagues, throughout this call, QNRF is challenging your spirit of creativity. It will be great achievement for the community of researchers in SAH and for us to receive a high number of proposals. By this, I thank you, and I give the floor to Dr. Shah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hatem. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar today. I'm going to speak today about the IP section and the research proposal, and I want to make this observation that at this stage, which is the gating stage, you are not required to fill in this section. You are not required to answer the 4 questions of the IP section. It is that QNRF wants to take this opportunity because we will not have the opportunity to talk to you after this information session. So whatever I'm going to say now will be applicable to all of you because you will have to deal with this section whether you are applying for an NPRP cluster or the NPRP standard. So it is an opportunity to explain this section that we are going to look at just now. So this section comes, you can see it comes maybe down the line, and when you reach this section, I can understand that you are exhausted because the application is really long and requires a lot of effort from you. What can I advise? Maybe take a breath or take a break, but most importantly, please take your time to answer the 4 questions. So I'm going to walk you through these 4 questions. And question 1 is about the research problem and the expected outcomes. So the reason why we are speaking about these this very important question, which is applicable to all research proposals, is because we have received research proposals where the answer for this question was not applicable. And particularly in social science research proposals, They see IP and they say, well, we're not working on a process or product, so we are not concerned by the IP section. Well, that is not true. Actually, there is no difference between any research proposal, whether you are operating in energy, environment, or social science, it's the same. Based on your research problem, please, we would like you to elaborate on your expected outcomes. And the expected outcomes are the result that will be delivered after completion of the project. So we can also understand that at the early stages, maybe it's not really easy for you to predict the exact outcomes, but you still need to define the overall results and make the case for their achievability. And from this perspective, the vast majority of the research proposals we are receiving, they comply with this and they provide their expected outcomes. You can have one expected outcome, you can have 2, 3 expected outcomes. So the most important thing is please to elaborate on them clearly based on your research program. And then the third point is how this is important. It's because if you elaborate on your expected outcomes, then you will establish the significance of your proposal. And then this is also an opportunity for the panelists to assess the opportunity in investing in your expected outcome. Nadine, please, next slide. Now I'll try to explain what can we consider as an example of a research problem. A research problem can be an approval or disapproval of hypothesis. It can be making original contribution to knowledge. It can be expanding or extending knowledge. It can be filling gaps in existing works. It can be creating, building up, enhancing existing technical solutions. You can see that all these areas are very well welcome. And if you say that I'm going to just advance knowledge, this is acceptable. This is absolutely fine. The vast majority will maybe want to operate in the last line, creating, building up, enhancing existing technical solutions. These are maybe more related to technological areas. But if you are operating in the social science area and you just want to expand your knowledge or fill gaps, and this is also very acceptable. So go ahead, Nadine, please. So if you are doing this and you, for example, extending knowledge or advancing knowledge, and your expected outcomes are just disseminating knowledge through publications or public policies or social economic studies or political studies, then this is absolutely fine. So don't try it not applicable, because if you do so, what you are doing is just destroying the whole proposal. You cannot submit a research proposal and say, no, I don't have a research problem, or I don't have any expected outcomes. So you can have, as you can see, a variety of expected outcomes. They can be data or databases, they can be methods, they can be processes, they can be products, they can be new uses of these creations, they can be software, they can be data, databases, sets of data. They can be also plant varieties, they can be industrial designs. The most important thing is that you need to identify what are the tangible outcomes. So building capacity can be also an outcome, but we are not interested in that in this particular section. We are interested in what we call the creation, the exact creation of the mind. We understand that this creation may evolve, may change throughout your project, but at the beginning you will need to have an idea on that particular expected outcome. Please, Nadine, ahead. And then comes the second question. The second question is about novelty. And in IP laws, we make a distinction between novelty and originality. So while novelty is connected to patent laws, originality is more connected to copyright laws. And here, please, let me make a very important observation. Copyright laws are not aliens to IP laws. copyright laws are a huge and very important part of IP laws. So if your expected outcome is copyrightable, please don't consider this as an insult. It's not. Copyrights can be licensed, copyrights can have a huge added value, and copyrights can be exploited and utilized by end users, and they can have a lot of value. So your software might be copyrightable, but it might also be patentable. In that case, we will join the IP protection and we'll give it a copyright and unregistered copyright plus a patentable IP protection. But if you have only copyright, that's not bad. That can be really, really very good. You can have also a novel expected outcome, and this can be, for example, an invention. An invention will look like a product, for example, or a new process. This new process has to be novel. So here I would like to emphasize one very important observation. Novelty in IP, and particularly in patent laws, novelty is assessed against what we call the prior art. So the prior art, I like it very much because it's like music. It has no boundaries. The prior art is whatever other solution can exist has been disclosed in the past by any means. It is in the prior art. So novelty cannot be assessed only against what is known in Qatar or only against what is known in that particular country. Novelty is assessed against anything disclosed anywhere. So now I included this very nice, I think, definition given by the European Patent Office, where it says novelty is associated to patent laws. It says novelty refers to any evidence that your invention is already known. It is enough that someone, somewhere, sometimes, previously has described or shown or made something that contains a use of technology that is very similar to your invention. If this happens, then your invention is no longer new. So in technical terms, how we assess this in QNRF is we look at all patent documents that have been disclosed anywhere in the world by anybody. Because, you know, research is about competition. Don't think that you are alone in the world. So we look at everything disclosed everywhere. It can be publications. The disclosure can also happen through a seminar or a seminar like this. Anything that we can find in the prior art will be used to show the case whether or not your expected outcome is new or not. Originality is also related to novelty, but we use it when your expected outcome is related to copyright, and originality is very linked to what we call the original authorship. Means don't copy any work that has been disclosed and put your name under it. This will not be original. We will not consider that as original. And also make sure that when you use works from other people, then you would provide full reference of that work. And then my third message for you, please make sure when you are preparing your research proposal to consult databases before drafting your research proposal. For example, ESPASNet is a European patent database. It is available for everybody. You can access it. It's for free, and you have plenty of documents. I think it's more 100,000 now. Patent documents are all available freely accessible. Darwin Innovation is also a database, and in this database you can access not only patent documents, but you can also access non-patent documents, meaning journal papers. So please conduct, even with very simple methods, conduct research before embarking into that or this particular outcome. I move now to the third and fourth questions. So Nadine, please go ahead. The third question is about inventiveness. So this is the only question when you can say it is not applicable, and you can say it's not applicable only when in the first question, the previous question, you said that your expected outcome is something copyrightable. If you are not dealing with inventions, meaning you are not dealing with products or processes, then you can state for this question not applicable. But if your expected outcomes are related to inventions, technical solutions, meaning technical solutions. Inventions are technical solutions to technical problems. If you are dealing with any outcome that is in relation to this, then the third question, you will give us, just elaborate a little bit on the inventiveness of your expected solution, technical solution. So what does it mean, inventiveness? The inventiveness means simply that your solution is not obvious to a skilled person in the art. A skilled person in the art can be someone like even your PhD doctoral student. A doctoral student should not find this solution obvious. So in other jurisdictions, they consider the skilled person in the art as the patent examiner, this person who spent years and years looking at these technical solutions. That's not really required. You just need to show us that there is some inventiveness in your solution and that is not obvious. And therefore, this will be a very good added value for your expected outcome because it can be patentable. Now, I move to the fourth question, which is the last question. And this question is about impact-wise. So what is impact-wise? So first of all, please let me make a very important observation. QNRF has always been looking at the impact. QNRF, through its funded projects, has always been impacted the research environment in Qatar. And this is the essence of the mission of QNRF, is to impact the research ecosystem. So through its funded projects, we are looking, for example, at the number of PhD students you are supervising, because this will impact the research environment by building up more and more research capacity. We look at your publications, and this is very good because this will improve the research quality provided and generated by Qatar. So QNRF has always been looking at the impact-wise. It's just we think that we have now reached a certain level of maturity, and as my colleagues explained before me, we would like you to impact not only the research environment, but we would like you also, through our funded projects, we would like you to impact the economic, the social environment of Qatar. So this is why we would want you to collaborate with other partners. We would like you to collaborate with stakeholders. We would like you to collaborate with end users. So technically speaking, how are you going to show this in this fourth question? So if you mention that you have a partner, don't just say, I have a partner, and just make your partner or end user or collaborator just sign a document because QNRF is asking for this. Show in this question that this partner or this end user is really involved in the implementation of the expected outcome. Show us that he or she will be using, the day you are done with your research proposal, then your partner is ready to implement it. Show us how are you evolving, you will be evolving with him or he throughout your research proposal, so that we have the feeling that the expected outcome will be really utilized. And the expected outcome we are going into QNRF, we are going to invest in, will be really and effectively utilized. So all these manners will give certainly a huge added value to your expected outcomes, and this will certainly affect positively the IP value related or attached to expected outcomes, and we certainly fund it and we certainly encourage it. So with this, I'm done, and I repeat again, at this gating stage, you are not required to file and give responses to these 4 questions, but I wish you all the best, and I hope that you will pass successfully the gating process, and you will have to give answers to these this IP question. And with this, I'm done, and thank you very much. Nadine, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Shakron, and thank you, everybody, for the presentations. Now I will open the floor for question and answers. In front of you, you'll find a section for questions. You can type your question, and we will answer it. Also, if you would like to talk or explain your point, there is a small hand in front of you. You can just raise it and we'll give you access to talk in case needed. I already started to receive some questions. I will start with them until I receive more questions. I have here a question. What is the minimum number of years one can apply for? Can it be 2 years, for example? Yes, it can be 2 years. It can be 1 year. Also, these all should be justified and should be in the cluster format. For the panelists, at any time, if you want to add or you want to answer, just let me know. We have also another question. The cross-institutional, can it be a mix of local and overseas-based institutions? Yes, as I mentioned, the lead principal investigator and the principal investigators can be from outside Qatar, and these will be the collaborative institutions inside outside Qatar in the cluster. Co-funding proves time and time again to be challenging for the social sciences. How much premium do you place on this criterion? I will give the floor to Dr. Hisham to answer this. I repeat the question.
Thank you, Nadine.
Okay.
No, it's okay. I've got it. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Co-funding and collaboration in general are one of many criteria. It's favorable that you have, but if you don't, other elements of your submission will be evaluated and weighted against an overall criterion of evaluation. So it's good if you have it, but it's not detrimental if you don't. That's the general approach that we take at QNRF. Thank you.
I have here another question. Is it possible to receive the slides for the presentation? Yes, usually after the presentation, we post on the QNRF website in the NPRP Download Center the presentation where you can find it. Another question, to go from research results to clinical stage, there is many requirements and stages, including CMC quality, non-clinical and regulatory issues. Do you have all such setups? Can you elaborate on this? I think this question is for Dr. Mohammad Jarrar, please.
Yeah, thank you for this question. This is an interesting question, actually. But I think the right person to answer this question is the Ministry of Public Health. So I'm sure the Ministry of Public Health has some regulatory issues and policies and procedures. So I would advise to contact them. They are more familiar than us with these things.
Another question. Thank you, Dr. Jarrar. Thank you for continuous support for research. What if the project is about AI in personalized clinical medicine? Can we consult with QNRF to advise on which track we should submit? Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes, of course. It is all these themes that's mentioned are applicable to precision medicine. Of course, we're always open for consultation if anybody wants to have some advices. We can provide consultation. Yeah.
Regarding the proposal, if it's technology related, it's building a technology, is extending AI, new algorithms applied to specific domain in personalized medicine. It's related to actually to the technology and to AI technology. If it's more on the medical side, then it's more related to personalized medicine. So we can always help. I mean, if you have some doubts on that.
Yes, you can send us through the ticket and we'll be directing it to the right person to answer. We understand that co-funding is important for science projects due to its utilitarian imperatives. However, it's equally important for social science project, especially Next Qatari Society. Will a project on Next Qatari Society be equally considered without co-funding? He has another question. Let's answer this first. I think Dr. Mhanni, you can answer this.
Yes, I don't know why our colleagues, researchers, are always asking this question in our info sessions. I think that there is a possibility to have co-funding. If you are in economic and you are working in the finance, banking sectors and central bank and other insurance sector, etc., could be involved in your projects. When you are in the arts, museum could be involved also. I think I will not say we will treat these proposals apart. You have to find co-funding, and we will treat all the proposals one by one and try to have a good evaluation for each sector if possible. But I think they have to do the effort to try to have a co-funding.
Can I add to this, Nadim, please, if I may?
Yes, sure, please.
We view co-funding as evidence of interest and a promise of uptake by the co-funders, presumably a significant local end user or stakeholder. So that's how we view. We're not looking for the money per se. We're looking for evidence that this is relevant to stakeholders and end users, and there is the promise that the outcome of the projects will be uptaken by these co-funders. So that's how we view the importance of co-funding. In that regard, the type of co-funding is decided by the proposal of the project. Some projects lend themselves to being attractive to co-funders, some less so, but it's a judgment call. But as I said before, it's one of many evaluation criteria. It's good to have it, but it's not a must, and if you don't, it's not detrimental.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham and Dr. Hatem. I have here another question. How we can find historical data regarding the number of clusters invited for a presentation and how many got awarded? For the invited for presentation, we don't post this, but the awarded are already posted on QNRF website. You can go to the website under the awards. You will find the all awarded projects in the QNRF and the ones of cluster. But for the one not awarded, we don't post them. TRL level required in which field? I'm not sure in which field he's asking this question. Maybe in ICT. I have another question until he explains more. Can you please elaborate more on the question, and we'll take it. So he has, I have here another question. I have a question related to evaluation of social science project by external reviewer. This is a structural question, and I should not probably ask this question here. You can always send us a ticket if you don't want to detail your answer question here, and we'll be happy to answer you. And also it will be answered by the right person from QNRF. If you need more discussion about this or more elaboration. Can the same person be lead PI of one cluster and BPI of another cluster proposal? Yes, it can be. Thank you for such an interesting webinar. If I have the idea of for research and it sounds really great to be funded, would you help me find partners from other institutions, disciplines to collaborate with me in the research project? Usually QNRF does not involve in the collaboration and partners between the teams. We have on our website list of institutions in Qatar. You can always consult it and contact them directly, but the QNRF itself doesn't we doesn't be involved in the partnership.
Let me help you out. Yes, we do not get involved in this, and we should not get involved in this because this will be viewed as prejudicial. This is not our role. Groundwork in terms of finding partners and so forth, the onus of that is completely on the applicants. QNRF will not extend such help other than to avail the information which they are on our website, but we will not be able to help in this regard because this is prejudicial and we can't be seen to be involved in that.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Hisham. Another question, Ms. Nadeem mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, PD can resubmit the proposal if recommended by the pragmatic review. My question, how the project can contact the panel to get such, what's the channel or process? No, this already has been made available for the proposal that have been submitted in the last cycle. So the project director had access to this panel summary, and if it's written there that it's recommended for fund, they can resubmit. Recommended for resubmission, it can be resubmitted. And this only under the themes, thematic areas, towards clinical to precision medicine. So only under this theme. So if any proposal submitted under any other themes are not eligible to be resubmitted. What is the dedicated budget for the project? Does the call allows application for an innovative project through collaboration with other outside institutions? The outcome could be first a device and later to test it. I think maybe Dr. Hisham, you can help in this question. What is the
yes, to all of the above. I don't see any reason why a project with an outcome or collaboration inside or outside be any problem. So
no, I mean
yes.
the outcome could be first a device and later to test it. This innovation project, innovative project.
But if there's a research component, significant research component that goes into that, that also is acceptable.
Would the recording be available after the session? I'm not sure. We'll see if it's recorded correctly, and we'll see. We need approval on this. In general, how many lead PIs per cluster project you expect? We don't have a minimum number or maximum number. This up to the project director to put this in the cluster and explain why and justify the role of each one in the cluster. So it depends. So the lead PI is related to the number of sub-projects and how many are really needed to complete the whole cluster proposal. We are looking for collaborators inside Qatar. Is there a way to get connected with them, with some? Do you have a list of potential collaborators who we can reach out to? As I mentioned, we have the list of institutions in Qatar in our website, on QNRF website. I will see if I can show you this. But you have to contact them directly, so we don't get involved in this. But you can just contact this institution and see who can be a partner with you. Is it possible to submit a proposal in Arabic? I think only in the social sciences. Maybe Dr. Hatem can. This we have the template in Arabic, but we cannot hear you, Doctor.
Nadine, I would add a word, please, after Dr. Hatem.
We cannot hear you, Doctor.
Definitely, yes, they can.
Okay, because I'm sure we have the template available for them, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Nafisa, please.
Thank you very much. Please, this is a very important question because now we are facing some problems with the research proposals submitted in Arabic. Yes, you can submit your research proposal in Arabic, but then we'll have some, we don't have the right to change your words. We don't have the right to translate your words. We don't have the right to interpret your words. So sometimes it is a little bit difficult for us to run the search as regards the novelty. So we want you please maybe, yes, submit in Arabic, but maybe for question 1 of the IP section, submit the translation with it, so that we don't take the risk to translate or maybe misunderstand your expected outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Would you let me know the suitable team size? As I mentioned before, we don't have minimum or maximum. This up to the project director to define based on the cluster and the subject and this. So we don't have any limitation on this. Can you explain if resilient covers Qatar independence related activity? Resilient covers Qatar independence related activity. Sorry, I didn't get. Who can help me in that? Dr. Hisham.
I am equally baffled. I don't understand the question.
Me too. I couldn't. Please.
Perhaps if you ask me.
Yeah, Dr. Sadr,
ask
please,
me,
if you can elaborate more on this, and we'll be answering it. Can you provide us with link to the video presentation and the mail for possible more questions? As I mentioned, I will publish the presentation, the slides on the QNRF website, and the ticket system is the support.qnrf.org. This in QNRF website. At the bottom of QNRF website, you'll find this link that you can send through your questions. How many projects will be awarded, for example, in AI? Dr.
There is no specific number of projects to be funded. I mean, it really depends on technical merit and the expected outcome and impact. So we don't have a predefined number of proposals to be funded. It really depends on the quality of the proposal and its impact. And there is a question about the TRL. Of course, we are looking for proposals with that can be implemented, deployed later on. And so it's not just pure theoretical work. Here we have a collaboration with stakeholders, with end users. So we are looking for a proposal addressing the topics from different perspectives. So we are looking for this type of proposals, and this will be assessed, and then you'll be invited to present, to give a short presentation, and if it's really it has merit, it can go forward.
Just to add to that, Nadine, the number of awards will depend on a number of applications, the caliber of applications, and the availability of budget. It's a statement of all three.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Hisham. Thank you, Dr. Munir. Is one lead PI sub-project only addressed by one unique institution, or can the lead PI sub-project be formed by a consortium of various organizations, although represented by one lead PI? Yes, each sub-project can have one should have one lead PI, lead principal investigator, but can have any other principal investigator from different institutions, not only from the same institution. And also in the sub-project, we will have unnamed roles, which are the research team members, like the postdoc, the research assistant, research associate. These all can be added to the sub-project and the whole cluster as well. How can international experts register to help support applications in their fields? As I think they mean here the peer reviewers. We usually invite some peer reviewers to register on our website. This is not available for everyone to just enter to log to QNRF website and register as peer reviewer. We do invitation based on the qualification of the peer reviewers. Can you share the link for the recording alongside the slides? As I mentioned before, I need to see the recording if it's recorded well, or if it's recorded and get the necessary approval if we can post such thing. Is proposals from government entities like ministries has to be co-funded or could be fully funded by QNRF? This we don't have, as mentioned, Dr. Hisham mentioned, the co-funding is not a must. It's suitable for projects, so it's always better to have co-funding in the project if it's from government or any other institution. So this gives a, this shows us the interest of these co-funders in the project. So that's. I'm not sure, Dr. Hisham, if you want to add something else.
Nothing more than what already been said in terms of there's no must. It's favorable, but it's not obligatory. As I said, it's a sign and evidence of interest and promise of uptake, and it varies from one topic and one subject and one discipline to the other. And every proposal will be judged on merit against a multiple criteria, including co-funding, but not exclusively so. So it's good to have it, but it's not, as I keep saying, detrimental not to.
This question is for Dr. Omar. Regarding national emergency preparedness, would a proposal uniquely focusing on developing technical tools for addressing disaster response be acceptable? Here with tool, I intend robotic platforms deployable to the field, AI-based decision support modules, software and hardware components for the provisioning of communication and situational awareness.
Yes, yeah, conceptually that would fit within the spirit of the call of disaster and emergency.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. If you already own IP on the treatment to develop a project, how is this viewed by QNRF? Dr. Shakroon, can you help with this? If you already own IP on the treatment to develop a project, how is this viewed by QNRF?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, at this stage, the gating stage, this will be very good viewed. As long, under one condition, the IP situation is cleared. What does it mean cleared? If you have what we call a background IP, you have, let's say, a software or a database or any technical solution, and you want to develop it, to enhance it. This is an incremental innovation, and this is very welcome. Just mention in your proposal, this initial stage, just mention that the IP is who owns the IP, who are the authors, who are the inventors, and most importantly, what is the status of your IP asset, meaning is it in the public domain, is it still in force? So give us a full idea of the situation of the IP you are going to build off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shakroon. How to acquire the ticket? I will show you just the website of QNRF. Okay. If you go here to the website, you will go at the bottom. And here you will find support.qnrf.org. Just click on it. I think there's a problem today. So here you just click on it. I have problem with the security in my so just click on it and choose the right program and submit the ticket. Also the question regarding the research institution in Qatar, we have here, if at the bottom also of the page you will find the approved research offices. This is the approved for the submitting institutions. We have also the Qatar research institutions, and in some program we have the lead PI. When they look to collaborators, it also appears here in this. So you can refer to this always to see for any if you are looking for collaboration. Collaborators does not have personnel in the budget. Do you think they will support us by any kind of funding? So this up to the co-funders. What's your agreement with the collaborators? So this we don't involve in this. I understand that the co-funding. So this, what's your agreement? But if they don't want to put budget from QNRF budget for personnel, they can have this personnel. If you use the personnel, can be as in kind from these collaborators. In case if they are eligible to be co-founder, and if they are not academic or research institutions. A follow-up question, I mean statistics success rate. You mean the success rate for the award? As I mentioned in Dr. Hisham, you can answer this. The success rate for the cluster.
I can't remember the exact figure. Perhaps you could help me there. But I think this is an extension of the question that was posed earlier about the number of awards. What was the success rate, the last success rate that we had?
Yeah, we usually in all our programs we try to have around 24, 25. Yes, that's our.
That sort of. But again, that does not tell you much about the number of awards, because that depends on the number of applications.
Okay, because I have this question again also, what's the success rate? Thank you for such an interesting webinar. If you have the idea for research, and I think we answered this, would you help me find partners? Yes, the question was about TRL for ICT project. So I think Dr. Munir already answered this. Can you provide us your website a sample of a well-done proposal? The awarded project, we don't usually post them. We only post a summary of the projects, and you can find them here under award. If you go to search awards, you will find all awarded projects in QNRF. But of course, but we don't post full proposal. We post only summary and the publications, the outcome of these projects. Because for confidentiality reason, of course. For the emergency response cluster, it's important to have included the development of nationwide comprehensive ER and plan as one of the objectives. For the emergency, Dr. Omar can help me in this.
Would you again repeat the question, please, Nadine?
For the emergency response cluster, it's important to have included the development of nationwide comprehensive ER and plan as one of the objectives.
Well, I think it's included and it's embedded in the text. As you read the RFP, it's already there. And what we are after is a national system ER at national level, again, holistically, and that involves the different relevant partners to address some risks or some emergencies that will be identified by the application. So I trust it's there and it's embedded and clearly mentioned in the text of the RFP.
Can QNRF fund start-up or spin-off companies to develop and commercialize research outcomes from Qatari institutions? We only fund the research proposals. We don't fund startups or companies as QNRF. Do the project within a cluster need to be independent in terms of time plan? For example, could be there a task or work package that's shared amongst all of them, or a task work package that provides data or gadgets designed to all projects within the same cluster? As I mentioned, all the cluster, it will be submitted for us as one proposal. So the project director needs to work on this, how these sub-projects are working together and how they complement each other. This depends on the project director and the cluster itself. So the design is up to the project director.
Let me add to this, Nadine, please, if I may.
Yes.
One of the things that we look into as an evaluation criteria is the justification of the cluster, which includes the complementarity and how logically everything fits together. There's no hard and fast rules as how you do that, but as long as it makes sense and as long as it's logical, then that's up to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. I have a question here. I submitted a proposal to Belmont. I'm thinking of modifying and submitting to cluster. Is that allowed? It can be submitted if of course, if it complies with the cluster rules and the requirements. Also, please avoid copy word by word, and so try to rewrite the proposal and make it as the cluster requirements, and should contain all the components of the cluster proposal. Is it possible that the PI from outside Qatar could be lead PI in one of the project sub-projects? Yes, as I mentioned, lead PI can be from inside or outside Qatar. It can, or he or she can be also a PI in any sub-project. Is it possible for me as professor in a community college of Qatar having no graduate PhD or master students collaborate with a professor from Texas A&M? You can communicate with them directly and see they are eligible, they are approved. Texas A&M is approved submitting institution, so you can collaborate with them and see if you can submit together. So thank you for the informative presentation. There are topics that span across the themes. Is it possible to submit a cluster to be considered, reviewed jointly by one or more thematic area? Dr. Hisham can answer this.
The short answer is no. You have to identify one theme per submission. But the multidisciplinarity is always welcome. But you have to identify, for the sake of organization, perhaps more than anything else, that you need to identify where the crux of your application align with which of the 4 themes. But for it to be multidisciplinary, that's welcome.
Would the presence of a consistent number of partners outside Qatar be evaluated negatively overall, still respecting the budget constraints? Also, can Dr. Hisham answer this?
Again, there's no hard and fast rules as to what the ratio of inside to outside, as long as you said the rules in terms of division of effort and budget are respected. But again, you have to make a submission that makes sense, and the local component is always viewed positively, because one of the things that we try to do is to build capacity and utilize local resources. So bearing that in mind, the rest of how you actually mix and match the local and international component of your application is entirely up to you.
Yes. Is Community College for Qatar in QNRF list? Please refer to the list and check if it is there, and check if it's eligible. You have to check the responsible person to see if it's eligible to submit for the NPRP, the National Priority Research Program, or not. Is overhead covered for international partners? Yes, we have the overhead or the indirect cost for overall. And this will be an agreement with the local institution, or the submitting institution, on the percentage and how. Can we have example of previous awarded projects in business so we can learn? I applied last cycle. The reviewer comments were positive but not awarded. As I mentioned, we cannot reveal proposals submitted by others, full proposal for confidentiality and reasons. We only have the summary, as I mentioned, on our website. You can refer to it at any time. So that's how we can help. I think we cannot reveal more information about proposals. Activities that boost Qatar independence, I think, towards, for example, import or food security. This is a clarification for the previous question. That boosts Qatar independence towards, for example, import or so what do you mean by this? It's not clear also for me.
I think the question, the question is for Dr. Omar. I think it's about how Qatar, is the independence of Qatar from supply of food, making of, agriculture, such type of things, industries, have in resilience.
Well, that kind of concept will address a resilience aspect, but where is the emergency or disaster they are proposing here? I'm not saying yes or no here. The case for the applicant is that he or she has to identify the emergency or the disaster that is associated with some risks, make the case for it here inside Qatar, and then propose the resilience aspect and how he or she is gonna tackle this kind of things. As a matter of fact, objective number 1 in what we are proposing. It reads identification and understanding the national emergency areas. So if you come up with something solid that will be mitigated through what you are proposing as a resilience activity, sure, by all means, you can always apply. But again, you understand this will be subject to our review, and you got to make a strong case for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it possible to be in a way to translate the event in Arabic? Unfortunately, we don't do it, but if you have any question in Arabic or you need any more clarification, you can always send us through the ticket and we'll be happy to answer you in Arabic as well. So I meant as a potential collaborator on project within their field. This is a question related to this, a continuation of question. I'm lost. Where is it? The other one. During the project, during the project presentation, can the lead PIs attend as well? Because the project director might not be expert in all areas. Yes, the invitation will be for the project director and the lead PIs to come and present together. I have a question.
It's not that they are just allowed; they are encouraged to do so.
Yes. I have a question about clinical research in the private sector. I would like to ask it verbally using audio if possible. I think the one who asked this already left. Can projects within the cluster be interdependent? Work package in one project can be dependent on another work package in another project within the same cluster. Can we have a project within the cluster which furnish data or hardware or services to all projects within it? Yes, that's the whole idea of cluster, that the sub-projects should complement each other. And as I mentioned before, the structure of the cluster itself, and this up to the project director, how they feel they can reach the final outcome. So the design, the timeline, the complementarity of the work packages, this all up to the project director. Can you, I think it's written here, can you hire QU staff in a research project? What do you mean by research staff? If they are research, we can, as I mentioned, we have roles, research assistant, research associates, and we have a graduate student, undergraduate students roles available as part of the unnamed roles in the proposal, and they can be hired from QU or any other institution, as you see. But if you, this is what you mean. So they have to be involved in research and should have a role, and their role should be well explained in the proposal. International university partners are eligible for funding. Are there any restriction on funding international partners, including overhead? The international university can collaborate. They are eligible for collaboration, to be collaborators and to get funds from the grants. They cannot be co-funders if they are in universities, because these are academic institutions. So are there any restriction on funding international? Yes, as I mentioned, that we have restriction, and overall outside Qatar can have only 20% of the budget goes outside Qatar for international partners from the total grant. So this should be calculated by the project director and see how much can give for the international partners. But this is the restriction. We cannot spend more than 20% outside Qatar. And 35% of the effort must be maximum outside Qatar. Thank you for the session today. I think you have already explained, but can a private company claim personnel cost in the budget, or only research institutions can allocate personnel cost to the budget? No, as I mentioned, private institutions, they are not eligible for personnel, for their personnel to get money from QNRF grant. If they have personnel that they will work in the project, they can have them as in-kind co-funding in the project. But they are not eligible to get co-funding from, to get funds from QNRF grants. Yes, is there a website for the previously funded project, whether NPRPS or NPRPC? Is it one of your criteria that the project should be distinct in terms of area and focus from the previously funded projects? Yes, as I mentioned, all the awarded projects will usually are posted here in this. I think you will be able to see this page, right? On the QNRF website, you will find the funded. You can just search by program and you will find the awarded projects. Regarding that, should be we always have our project should be new or novel. So and for any program. And this one of the criteria of the evaluation criteria. So this shouldn't be same like other awarded project. Can you provide in your website a sample of a well done? I think I answered this already, that we cannot share proposals because these are confidential for the applicant and these are private for them, so we cannot post them. We only publish the summary. Some awarded grants are listed as award suspended. What does this mean? That mean? This means that this proposal, they got awarded, but the suspension is based on maybe in the post-award they faced some difficulty or something, and we put it on suspension for a short period until things will go on. Collaborators that does not have personnel in the budget, do you think that they will support us by any kind of co-funding? I think I answered already this. This, as I mentioned, this up to, so it's up to the collaborators to put the personnel or not. Will the thematic areas of NPRP cluster be applied for the next NPRP standard? Usually the themes that they are in the cluster are not in the standard. So we try to not duplicate themes, but maybe Dr. Hisham can elaborate more on this.
You're absolutely right. We try to separate the, not to duplicate provision. So what's offered on cluster is generally not, unless of course there are overlapping areas and so forth, but the focus area of the cluster, we endeavor to make it distinct from that of other programs.
Is the main theme is AI and it will be contributed in 3 different topics? Is that acceptable? If the main theme is AI, and I think it is repeated. Dr. Munir can answer this, please.
Yeah, I mean, AI is AI application is multidisciplinary. It can be applied to different areas. It can be submitted as AI, and then you describe and we have a number of application areas mentioned in the proposal. You have health sector, you have education, you have industry, you have business and economy. So you select a theme, which is the AI, and how it can be applied to a specific area. If it can speak to other areas, it can be described, but the proposal has to be a focused proposal. Thank you.
Okay, this question also for Dr. Omar. For emergency part, can we work on one project on petrochemical resilience?
Yes. Again, I mean, the area or the field your proposal to working on is up to you. It's open. We welcome all kind of idea in any kind of industry. The only issue that is you got to make us a clear and justifiable case as where is the possible disaster or emergency that might happen to that field or to that industry, etc. What are the implications, and what are you proposing to do to mitigate such kind of incidents? So by all means.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. To Dr. Omar also, can the emergency response team cover a research project on how the Qatari official bodies utilize translation into other languages in response to crises like COVID-19, knowing that nearly 50% of workforce do not speak English nor Arabic? This will be on crisis general, not limited to COVID-19.
Please justify what is the emergency you are trying to tackle. Again, I cannot in this position now to tell you yes or no whether the topic fits or not. Maybe you've got a strong case. Just provide all your tools, all your justification, submit, and you will hear from us.
Okay, thank you. This we did. Can the project director be from one of the external collaborators, or it should be from Qatari institution? No, as I mentioned, the project director must be from submitting institution, approved submitting institution with in Qatar. Cannot be from outside Qatar, and cannot be also from any institution. Must be from an approved submitting institution. Once again, are all projects in the cluster be related? I missed it, sorry. All sub-projects in the cluster, they should tackle the research problems of the cluster. They should complement each other. So this is the main idea of a cluster and the sub-projects in it. I'm not sure if Dr. Hisham wants to add anything in that.
Nothing more than what you just said. They need to sort of synchronize and gel seamlessly towards the outcome of the project.
In the context of the national security application, can the use of autonomous flying drones be considered? I'm asking this given current restriction on their importation and use. I think this is for Dr. Munir.
Can you repeat the question, please?
For AI, in the context of the national security application, can the use of autonomous flying drones be considered? I'm asking this given current restrictions on their importation and use.
I mean, when you submit a proposal, you need to ensure with your partners and with the current legislation that it is possible to implement. You can do studies, but at the end of the day, we need to have also prototype and demonstration, and you need to have to check with the Ministry of Interior whether you need to have licenses. I think they can give some licenses if you have a project, if they are collaborating with you. You can involve them as part of. I mean, I'm not. You can check with them, and you can seek their assistance if needed. So I think it's possible. We funded projects in the past using drones, and I think it's possible to have drones-based projects in Qatar, but should ensure that the legislation currently allows that.
Thank you, Doctor. I have here, thank you. Can the applicant researchers be from industry only to exploit and use funds towards products development from Qatari industry in collaboration with other insights, insights in, or I think outside? What if I understood the question correctly? The applicant can be only from private, can be from industry or private institutions only if they have approved research office with us. If they don't have, they cannot be a project director or apply. They can be collaborators in other projects, but cannot be the main applicant for the cluster project. Also, as I mentioned, the industry or the private sectors, maybe the private sector, they are not eligible for personnel and indirect costs from QNRF fund. Anyone wants to add anything? I thought. Okay, can the project director submit more than one proposal for the same theme at the same cycle? No, project director can submit only one application. Others inside, okay. I think I already answered this. Others inside. He meant others inside. So the collaboration inside and outside. As I mentioned, the industry can submit. Any institution can submit if they have approved research office with us. I think by this we have to end. I don't have more questions, and we are on time exactly. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, you can always send it through the support system, as I showed you. And we'll be happy to answer you at any time, and also it will be directed to the right person to answer it. Thank you so much for your time, and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.